Hey everyone, welcome back to Voices of Westward. Today we're talking about how to manage multiple communities without burning out. And we're joined by one of our senior community managers, Frederick Simons. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's humbling to be here. And honestly, this is a great topic because this is something that pretty much all managers have to deal with. I have personal experience even through COVID. It's crazy.
Yeah, I bet. So obviously we're going to start simple. Why would you say managing multiple communities is hard?
It can be very challenging. Number one, you have to let your boards know, and even the homeowners know that they are all priority. So it's kind of a juggling act because, you're trying to show them that they're a priority, their needs to be taken care of. You're not going to be favoring any other communities over them, but behind the scenes, of course, you're scrambling. You realize there's certain properties that take more of your attention, more of your time than the other ones. So that can be challenging. Every HOA has their own governing documents. So if you're just one of those that set it and forget it, say template, this is the way this community does it, so these have to be the rules for the other ones. Before you know it, there's going to be a mistake made. You're going to assume this is the way it happens, and now you kind of become a liability. So you really need to make sure that you're checking all your governing documents for each specific association. And of course, when you have many properties, that can be very time consuming and be a lot of responsibility. I think also when you have multiple communities that you're managing, you can go into work thinking, okay, when I get to work, this is what I have to do as soon as I get there. But inevitably, something's going to happen that's going to, be a priority or whatever that comes up, emergency surprises, and I can tell you how many times you're going home at night or getting ready to go to bed, and you're like, oh my gosh, I totally didn't even get to the thing that I knew, that I thought I was going to get to. So that's tough. It's just staying positive about that, not letting that get to you. And then honestly, one of the funny things we talk about in this industry is it'd almost be nice to have a dry eraser board above your headboard at night, because you go to sleep, you're like, oh my gosh, I need to write this down, or it wakes you up in the middle of the night and like, I have to write this down or I'm going to forget it, so I can at least try and go back to sleep. But there's just always moving pieces and parts that go with it, that make it a little bit more challenging than when you have to do that. The other thing is you have board members that can be reasonable, and you can have board members that are unreasonable, professional and unprofessional, and that can also make it very challenging when you're dealing with these people as well as the homeowners that sometimes make you feel like you're not only a manager, but you're a counselor, a mediator, and sometimes a babysitter.
All of the above.
Yes.
So I feel like it's really easy to kind of get burnt out in a situation like that, especially in this industry, especially in this role. So is burnout kind of mostly about workload, or is it about something else?
It's a combination of many different things. If you're a type of person, first of all, mentality. So if you're the type of person that says, you know what, I have to get everything done for me to feel comfortable and go home and go to sleep at night, it's going to wear you out. It's going to bother you big time. You have to understand that there's only so much that you can do and be okay with that. You really have to prioritize, okay, what are the things that have to be done today? What are the things that I'd like to get done but can happen tomorrow? Those types of things. Otherwise, like I said, it'll get to you. During COVID, I was having a hard time because I'd be up till late at night, early in the morning, then getting up 4 a.m. to work out. And after a while, it caught up to me where I started having chest pains. I was like, I can't die for this, right? So I want to be able to work to live, but I don't want to live so that I'm just working all the time. So the mentality thing's big. The other is organization. You have to be organized. So, and there's tools, whether it's an annual calendar that you have everything for the community written down, all the timelines, all the important dates, and then you turn and put that into your Google Calendar. An action list, which kind of has all the pending things going on, so that nothing falls through the cracks, and you're communicating to your boards weekly, month, every other week, whatever that they want. What's going on, that helps, as well as blocking out time on your calendar. It's very easy to get lost in the email black hole that you answer, they respond, so maybe blocking out times the same way we budget our money, we budget our time. So if you have some time that maybe you come in, this is the time I'm answering the emails, seeing what's important, after lunch, and another block. Before I go home, just take a quick peek, make sure there's nothing that needs my attention. That way you don't get lost in that, But yeah, so there's just a bunch of different tools to keep you organized. Shout out to Lauren at Las Vegas. She even told me that sometimes when there's big projects going on or feeling like she's behind, she'll actually put her out of office on her inbox. That way you set that expectation that they're not going to get back to you right away. They understand you're out of the office, and then you're not getting interrupted.
Like we just did.
So when you're budgeting your time, it's also important that you just don't have it all butted up against each other. You need to have open time where you can have some flexibility, because ultimately surprises will come up, and you need to make sure that you can have that time, that flexibility to be able to handle those situations and not feel overwhelmed like, oh my gosh. Delegation is huge. It is difficult for managers to delegate. When someone says, hey, can you just send me this ledger, please? It's like, of course I can. This takes me 3 seconds, But the reality is that those add up over time. But it is critical to be able to delegate so that you can handle the things that, are maybe a little bit more important, that it requires your license to be able to do. Also, a nice thing about it is it gets a nice rapport with your assistant or whatever, because now they start feeling like you trust them more, and and you have that pressure off you that you have to do everything. Unfortunately, if you're not organized, what happens is you're up against the time and you're working late at night and you just have to get it done and you can't delegate it. So they kind of like work hand in hand, where now you're stressed and you're doing more yourself, where if you'd be organized, then you can delegate better. The other one, you got to take breaks. You got to care. You got to have self-care. Too many times you see people not taking breaks. They don't take their PTO. They don't take their time. Even during the day, I think it's important. They compare sitting down to your desk in the past to very bad for your cardiovascular. They've even in the past compared it to smoking. So it's important to get up. I used to schedule everyone to walk around the building for like 10 minutes at 10 o'clock and 3 o'clock, just to step away. Helps you kind of be able to get perspective, reset, get things off your mind or whatever it may be, and then be able to go back. And it's proven that you actually are more productive that way than if you're sitting at your desk 24/7. But also people are taking their work at home too, so they just never get breaks. The other thing I'd say, volunteer. Use those volunteer hours, because when your world becomes all about you, when you're stressed, it's easy to get overwhelmed. When you are looking with your, what I say, working with your eyes up, seeing who needs help, seeing what you can do to make a difference, then you start realizing how blessed you are, and it truly does make a difference, where things that seemed so big before don't seem as big anymore.
I know you mentioned briefly about how it can get overwhelming. Although I'm not directly in the industry, working side by side and also just hearing from these experiences, it can be very overwhelming. What would you say is like the first thing someone should fix if they're feeling overwhelmed?
2 things. I think getting organized and time management. So, when I came on board, I really worked on the managers taking the time to be organized. And even if that means you block out some time and say out of office or whatever, the time you put into having everything in an annual calendar in your calendar. When you come to work that day, you know all the things that need to be done, and you know nothing's going to fall through the cracks. There's a value to that. Anxiety goes down. There's a calmness to it that, you're not overwhelmed. As long as I get this stuff done, I've done what I've needed to do. It feels really good. Time management is another thing. Be honest with yourself. How are you doing your time? Are you streaming shows while you're supposed to be working? Are you talking too much? Those things can all contribute to, you being overwhelmed, because you haven't given yourself actually the amount of time that you need to work. We already know it takes more time than probably we have. So anytime you allow yourself to kind of just let it go, so to speak, you're just kind of hurting yourself, because then you flip around to your computer to work and you feel that rush of, oh my gosh, I don't have enough time. And so just be honest with yourself, or ask, sometimes you can ask your supervisor, hey, what are you seeing? How can I improve? And maybe they can give you ideas as well.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And, obviously things aren't perfect all the time. So what would you say when things don't go as planned?
No 2 days are ever going to be the same in this industry. So there's always things coming up. And so you are constantly juggling, okay, I thought this was my priority, but now something's come up and I need to be able to do that. Surprises. So I think having a team or a family atmosphere at your work is very important. It's night and day. So we've had situations where our mailers for like elections, they didn't go out. So we've had to do it in-house. And so at that point, we just all jump on it and say, hey, everyone on board that can. I understand some people may have their stuff they have to do, but everyone else, what can I do to help? And that changes the environment as well, where it's like we all got each other's back, So ask for help if you need that. Ask someone that maybe has experienced what you're going through and has experience to be able to, help you in that situation. But I think having that environment is essential, that we all have each other's back. We're a family. No one's better than anyone else. I don't care if you're the leader. I don't care if you're the quote unquote entry level. We're going to do this together and we'll be successful together. We serve one another. So
what are some small things that people do that actually you would say makes burnout worse?
I think setting a pace that is not reality. People will take work home with them. They'll respond on the weekends. They'll do different things. And what you've done now is set a pace that what takes you actually 7 days to do, they're thinking you can do in 5. And so, you're just kind of hurting yourself there. So you got to be very careful. I get it. We all want to do our job in excellence, but there's a point where you have to have self-care. You have to, still do what's best for you because it's important, I also think keeping quiet about when things are going on. Sometimes you just need to reach out for help or talk to your supervisor and say, hey, this is what's going on and I'm extremely overwhelmed, and just to be able to share with them, or maybe it's something personal and you want to talk to them and say, here's what's going on, just so I'm not 100% today, and so I'm a little overwhelmed or whatever, here's what's going on. And so maybe they can, be a resource for you. Even sometimes just getting it out can help be able to just have that release and be able to, cry or hear some positive feedback or some experience on they've gone through and you didn't even realize it, and what they've been successful and how they handled it can make a huge difference. I think gossip and negativity in the office can really affect that, so, once again, just making sure you're not doing it because that's all you can control, and hopefully that'll have an influence, on the rest of the environment. Sometimes we don't realize how many distractions that we have or do, and I kind of alluded to those earlier, but just being honest with those maybe distractions and be good with your time, and setting boundaries for those things so they don't have to continue to be a distraction. Like I said, I talked about being organized and delegating, and then making sure you're taking breaks. Too many people think I can't take breaks, I just need to work harder. And the truth is, no, you do need to have the breaks. You will actually be more efficient with the breaks than if you're working 24/7.
Yeah, and I think it's super important because, like you mentioned earlier, I think communication is key. And I think here at Westward, we are very flexible and we encourage you to take your breaks. And, if you need to take a mental health day, like that's what you need to do as long as you're feeling okay. And I feel like in an industry that's so fast-paced, it's very, very easy to get disorganized and be very overwhelmed. And that's when these boundaries become important. So I want to talk about those boundaries. Would you say they're entirely realistic in this job, in this industry?
It can be challenging because there are emergencies, there are things like that where it's like, you feel that pressure, I need to get back to them right away. But there, kind of what I learned with Franklin Covey is you have your A, your B, your C, and your D, the A's, and you categorize the priorities. This one has to be done today. This one I'd like to, but doesn't. This one doesn't necessarily, and the D is just kind of whatever, right? And it's easy to mix them up. Sometimes it's easy because it's like the D is so easy and the other one is so tough, and you have to, quote unquote, what they say, eat the frog. You have to take care of that tough one first, So you need to, do your office, out of office, maybe do not disturb if you have an office and say, please don't come in, you know. And then, like I said, tools like the action list are nice because you're communicating proactively with your boards on where things are. What that does is if you don't, what a lot of times is your board members are like freaking out, like, where are we on this? Because the homeowners are reaching out to them at the mailbox or whatever. So if you can communicate with them and they have that information, they know it's coming regularly, now they don't have to reach out to you because they know it's coming. And what that does is less communication coming your way so you can focus on the rest. So even tools like that where they feel more comfortable with you and trust you, know things aren't falling through the cracks, but they know that you have your arms wrapped around your community, you genuinely care, and you're communicating with them, is less communication coming in from them because they know that you have things taken care of. And then after that's just, you're constantly shuffling those priorities and making sure that the most important things are being done that are time sensitive.
Mm-hmm. I know earlier you talked a little bit about delegation and how that's something that people struggle with. Do you feel like sometimes people might feel like that's not an option for them to delegate tasks, or is it just something that they have to create that boundary for?
Yeah, I think it's something that they need to understand that's important. And honestly, as managers, if you're not delegating, then you're not managing well. You have to be able to delegate. Those people are there and waiting to see, hey, how can I help you? And if you can, I meet with my assistant once a week just to make sure, number one, because they're offshore, that they know my voice. I don't want them thinking through chat that I'm speaking a certain way. I want them to understand that I want them to hear my voice through that when it's a chat, that they know there's kindness and there's sincerity and there's whatever, or, have that good communication with them and then be able to set them free to be able to do things that don't require what you're licensed to do. And that can be tough, but it's necessary, it's essential. And then you'll start noticing they just want to make you shine. They want to make you look good, and then you see them doing that and you want to see them shine because they're making your job easier. So it's a win-win there, but it has to be done. If you don't, it's another area in your career that you can improve on that you need.
I think coming from somebody that does deal with anxiety, I'm sure in this industry it's really, really easy to feel overwhelmed. What would you say is something people can do in the moment in a situation where they're feeling very overwhelmed?
Yeah, step away from your desk. I mentioned the walks earlier, whether you need to go walk by yourself or if you need someone that you're close to or whatever that you feel like you can confide in, just go for a walk, It'll help you obviously not react emotionally. It'll help you be able to reset. It'll help you be able to I guess get your right thinking, get everything together. It'll help get that poison, quote unquote, out. But yeah, go for a walk. If you need to talk to a supervisor, once again, someone with experience or whatever, you just need to step away from that situation at that moment. Do a self check, like I said, on your time management, make sure that you're not, time wasting at all. But I think the main thing is just know that you have a community around there that's willing to help. And at that moment, it's a difficult time for you. And you're going to find out that you're not the only one. Because you like to think, it's easy to think you're the only one, but when you find out others have experienced that, and here's what they've done, it brings the team together, realizing that we've all been there, and we can be resources for each other, suggestions on, okay, I've dealt with that before. Here's what I did, and it could work for you too, and then you can move on. And not only have you solved the situation, but you've also gained a sense of community at your workplace, which is even just as valuable.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's the best way to build a healthy community around yourself, is having those conversations that might be difficult for you, but that's how you build a strong relationship. The last question, what does a successful day look like in your role?
I'm sure you get different opinions. For me, the environment of my work is very important. I want people to know that they are important even more than the client, and I'm going to show them with my actions. So for me to get up and walk around the office every day and make sure that I know you're here, I know you, I see you, thank you so much, and just talk with everyone and greet them is important to me. From there, you have to take care of the things that are most time sensitive that need to be done that day. And if you did that, you've pretty much done, what you need to do, From there, like I said, working with your eyes up, see if someone else needs something, that you can be a resource to. And then it's important when you do have people helping you, and we talked about delegating or whatever, if they're reaching out to you for, feedback, I want to make sure that I've responded to them in a timely manner because they're just helping me, so I want to make sure I'm respectful of their time and their efforts to show that I appreciate them. But other than that, making sure nothing falls through the cracks that day.
I love that. I feel like it makes it feel a lot more realistic and a lot more human, which I think is hard to find these days. And honestly, coming from somebody on the outside that doesn't directly work in this industry, it kind of gives me a whole new perspective and gives me a lot of respect for you guys for all of the crazy stuff that you guys probably deal with on a daily basis. I'm sure no day is perfect. Thank you so much for coming on today's episode. If this helped you guys, or if you know someone who's deep in the community association management right now, feel free to send it this way, and we'll see you next time.